they had programming courses before, and it was introduction with the Python already, but just introduction. We didn't go very deep, but they know the MapReduce principle a little bit.
Okay. But in this, with our main motive would be like to how we can dedicate our use of programming language, that is Python, into cloud. So which is like, booming industry, like as of now, and like it's growing very fast and would be the future. So that's the main reason we are here, like to learn on this Python, where we can implement all our programming skills into cloud. But as this session is only for 1.5 hours, so I don't think we would be able to cover a lot, but yes, would be capable enough to understand basics and like the use cases of different Python on different levels and different scenarios. So I think we can start by it. So my name is Umar Khan, and I'm in Accenture working from past 1.5 years. So, and which was one of my very huge step and greatest step, I would say. Like, and I'm proud, like I chose Accenture for this because it's the platform where I learned lots of stuffs, and it's the company which always allows you to keep on learning and growing yourself. So a bit of introduction about Accenture. So it's a global professional service company with leading capabilities in digital, cloud, and security, and many more. So the main agenda of the company is to provide strategy of consulting, interactive technology, and operations. Whereas in strategy and consulting, we have like envision and execute change at speed and scale. If for interactive, we design, build, communicate, and run meaningful experiences at the intersection of purpose and innovation. Accelerate change across your enterprise to create lasting values and technology. And in operations, create intelligent new ways to harness change and grow. So these are the main focus of Accenture company, where we have expertise in more than 40 industries across 5 industry groups, and like those are communication, media and technology, financial services, health and public services, products, resources. So we are almost into everything. So that is the main reason why everyone can be a part of Accenture. That's this makes everyone part to be an Accenture. So which I would say like is a great career path to be chosen. But we'll talk about it, like how we can get into this and like how we will be a part of Accenture. We can talk about this a bit later. But let's directly deep dive into what we are going to learn today. So this is our agenda, where we are going to learn is like what is Python, data types, print function, what are variables, what are if-else statement, what are basic maths operation, what is procedure-oriented programming, and then go to 3 a bit, and then practical tasks. I would say like there are lots of things to be added in here as well, but this whole learning path or agenda, I would say, is dedicated to practical tasks what we are going to do in the very end. So these are covering like we'll start learning, okay, what are the print function, what are variables, and we are going to use and merge all of them at one single place by doing the practical task. So if anyone wants to try the code by themselves, they can do that. And if they have already installed or Python on their laptop or PC or whatever they're using, would be a good case. So you can interrupt me at any time, whenever you want, whatever you want to ask, you can ask me anytime. So please, let's have an interactive session and like try to learn something. Would be really good. So first, let me start with Python. So what is Python? So it's a paradigm programming language, which means like it supports multi paradigm, like lots of scenarios can be involved into single one. And it is interpreted language, whereas you would be aware, like there is a compiling language as well, which is like kind of, so in compiled language, if I want to give example, that is C. So it's a compiled language where the code will execute the whole bunch of codes in a single way, and it will compile it, and then it will execute it. Whereas in interpreted language, which is Python, so it will read each and every code, each and every line of code at a single time, and it will interpret and like it will execute it then. So it won't compile whole code at the same time at a single time and then execute it. So that's interpreted language, which is Python. It supports dynamic data type, which means you can change data type on the go, independent from platform. It supports multiple, almost every platform. It's focused on development time because it's it's used in a very basic English. You don't have to use very hard coded like void or something main to pi or something. So it's like very basic English. So that's why you don't have to worry about the syntax or something. You can directly focus on what you want to develop. Then simple and easy grammar, as I mentioned, it's high level internal object data types. So I will surely learn into data types like what is high object and like what are the different data types do Python offer. Then automatic memory management, where variables comes into picture, and we'll surely learn this as well. And obviously the main use case of this, like why it's very user friendly or like why it's widely used, because it's free and it's open source. That's why. Moving ahead, a bit of history of Python, like how Python came into picture and like who developed Python. So Python was born and picked the name in December 1989. The creator was Guido van Rossum, who was from Netherlands. So Rossum chose the name Python since he was a big fan of Monty Python's Flying Circuits. Then it was first publicly released on February 1991. Python.org website is the official website. It's still the same. It was developed in 1996 to 1997. Then Python version 2nd came, then 3rd released. So these are the like dates when it was released. But yes, still we are running on Python 3.8.9, but yes, 3.0, I would say, or 3.x, we can say that. So the very important case is like, okay, we learn some language or we learn something, but the main problem occurs like where we don't know where to use those skills or language or like our skills. So these are the places where you can use your Python skills, that is web development like Django and Flask. Then after that, in data science, which include machine learning, data analytics, and data visualizing. It is you can use in automation. Python is widely used in automation, like most of the time, like when automation is being happening. So Python is almost the part of it. So as it is scripting language, that's why it is used for automation. Then for any graphical user interface, embedded application, gaming, DevOps tools, education, learning, everything. So lots of stuff like if you want to build some application, if you want to build some web, so Python can be used like almost everywhere. Any questions, Celia?
So far, no.
Okay, let's go ahead then. Thank you. So when we talk about data types, so data types are the classifications or categorization of knowledge items. It represents the type useful that tells what operations are often performed or specific data type. Since everything is an object in Python programming, data types are classes and classes are variables are instance of those classes. So when we say, or like in a very basic language, what we say is like data types have been classified into two types, that is primitive and non-primitive. So whereas in primitive, it is like integer, string, float, and Boolean. Whereas in non-primitive, there are like tuples, list, set, dictionary. So these are the main basic core data types of Python, where if we go further, it expands a bit more. But yes, these are the core one. So if we learn this, those will be very easier. I'll give some example of these data types, like what is integer, what is string, how does it look like, and something. So we go ahead with that. And if you see primitive data types, so if I, for example, if I give some variable and say like hello world with a quotes in it, and if I check, like if I want to check what type does it belongs to, X, so it will say like it belongs to class string. So that means it is a data type is string. If I give some dot or some like a decimal number, so it will say it is a class belongs to float. That means this is the float number. If I give some normal number, it will say it is an integer. And Boolean, as all of you should already know, like true and false, it's a Boolean. So that this is a primitive data types. When we move on to non-primitive, so if I want to like list out something or like, bunch of list or something, so that time, or like, you have a huge data types or a huge sets of data and you want to put it into one single place. then this non-primitive data types comes into picture. And as we learned in the beginning, that these are like can be changed at any time. You can change it on go as well. So for example, if you type like, for example, X is equal to something like with a huge list, later you can add or like delete or something in that variable as well. So that's it. That's how it works. So for example, again here, just need to understand the difference. What are the non-primitive data types, and like how does this string, tuple, dictionary, and sets are like different from each other? So when I say like, for example, X is equal to apple, banana, and cherry, for example, and I say like class, what the class does it belongs to? So it says it's a list. So Python like recognize what kind of data type does it is this. Then after that, if I say X is equal to apple, banana, and cherry with a parenthesis on it, so it will say the type of class is tuple. Then after that, if I say like, again, the same thing, like I'll say like name with a quote, and then I'll go colon and then give the name, and I'll give another variable or key. Then after that, that is age, and the value of it is 36. So it will recognize that it is a dictionary while I'm using key and value sets. So you can say like, for example, name of a person is John, age of a person is 36. So you can use key and value set in the dictionary. Then in the sets, if you see the this curly brackets, so this curly brackets decides like what does it type it belongs to, what data type it belongs to. So this is set. So in this one, where set is one like majorly used in ordering the numbers as well. For example, if I give some variable, or let me open it. So if I just try to open it and like show you some example, so I can directly use it over here. So if I give example like 1, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 1, 6, 9, 7. If I give a value like this, and if I'll say like, tell me what type does X belongs to, so it will give me if this belongs to set. But if I retrieve when, like, tell me what is X. So if you see, it gives me 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9. Instead, the value what I given was 1, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 1, 6, 9, 7. So it orders it in ascending order, plus the repetitive numbers. It also removes them and put it in only a single time, and like it represents in ascending order. So that's how set is like difference from list or tuple or dictionary. Any questions on this?
What is the difference between a list and a tuple, and when we should use tuple?
So when you have some kind of like hard-coded things, like in the tuple, you list out something. For example, you listed out like lots of stuffs. You don't want anyone to change that list, or you don't want anyone to change whatever the data you have put into that list. So then tuples come to picture. So tuple is like you cannot change it. It's immutable, whereas lists are mutable. So you can change like whatever you want. You can append, you can add lots of stuff. You can add multiple data like after storing it in the variable. But in tuple, you cannot do that. That's where that's where it differs from list and tuple. Does that answer?
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Any more questions on this? Okay. No questions. Let's move ahead then. So this is the very basic function of Python, that is print function, and it's almost obviously widely used because the main reason of why we are typing lots of code, we want it to be print somewhere. The main reason. So the Python print function take it any number of parentheses and prints them out in a one line of text or multiple line as well. the items are each converted to text from separated by space, and there is a single like this n at the end, the new line character. When called with zero parameters, print just prints the backslash n and nothing else. So for example, if you see over here, if I say like print, let me just, so if I say like, if I want to print hello world, and yeah, I like give it inside a parenthesis inside this quotes, then it will print only hello world, whatever is given inside this quotes. So it will print that. Again, if I say print hello, and then for example, if I give this backslash n with an x, like for example, the second statement, so it will print and use this backslash n as a next line, and it will print it Accenture over here, the next statement over here. So that's how print function works. It's very simple. I'll try to put it in like here. I'll just try to show. Okay. So if I say like I want to print whatever it is, like hello Yannis. So it will print hello Yannis. If I want to print number, so it will print 1. Plus, on the other hand, it's capable enough to store lots of values. For example, if I say a is equal to 2, and I'll say b is equal to 3, inside the print function, what I can do is I can say a plus b, and it will give me the addition. You can do all of the maths operation inside the print function as well. So it's very powerful. Any questions on print?
Do you ever use like print without a new line symbol? Because sometimes it's easier to print without new line symbol rather than compose a string and only then print it in the end. It's just about, do you use it or not?
Yes, yes. And like it depends on the use case. Like if it's a use, you know, so it completely depends on the scenario. What is your requirement? Then yes.
Thanks.
Any more questions on print? Okay, if not, moving ahead. So variable, it's like kind of a, I would say like to store any data, whatever you want to store directly into the variable, whatever variable you give. Like, so earlier when it was like C or embedded or assembly or like whatever I would say, so in those, storing something was a huge hectic, but Python made it very, very simple. Just give like whatever name you want to give to the variable and store whatever you want directly into that. So it's pretty much simple. Like, as you see, I was doing a is equal to b. So I was referring a. So this is the variable what I choose a, and then I said like put 2 inside a. Then over here I said put 3 inside b. So that's how you like what we can do further is when I say c is equal to b, c is equal to a plus b. So which means I'm saying add a plus b and store it inside c. Then if I say print c, it will print 5. So that's how you merge variable with the print. But coming to the basic rules of variable, so need to go through a bit. A Python variable is a reserved memory locations to store values. In other words, a variable is a Python program, gives data to the computer for processing. Every value in Python has a data type. Different data types in Python are number, list, tuple, string, dictionary, etc. Variables can be declared by any name or even alphabets like A, like, you know, you can use it any. But yes, there are some reserved words which I would like to show you. So, for example, these are the reserved words, what you cannot use for the variable, like and, as, assert, break, class, continue, def, for. Finally, like these are the only reserved word what you cannot use as a variable inside Python. Then you cannot use, as I mentioned, must start. So these are the basic ground rules of variables. So must start with the letter or underscore. You cannot start it with number. Must consist of letters, numbers, and underscores. You cannot use special symbols like @ or something. It's case sensitive, which means if I am saying NAME with a small, so that's one variable. If I use capital N, that's another variable. If I use this whole capital letters NAME, that's third variable. So it's case sensitive, which means like you can use same name with capital and like non-capital combination, and you can use a new variable for that. So these are the examples of like what are good variables, like what are the good examples of variable, bad examples. So for good examples like name, age, Tom25_max or something, you can start _max as well, but you cannot start with the number or special characters. Okay. Any questions with this? Let us try with print and variable. Let us all try. If you have already installed Python on your laptop, please.
While they are searching for the idea, so I have one question, not exactly related to this, but how often do you use classes for object creation in Python? Because sometimes it seems like it's more or less like procedure oriented, not object oriented, but it can be used as well.
A lot.
So how often industry uses objects?
A lot, like almost every time.
But you creating the class and defining the structure, or is it just for storing the methods?
It's storing the methods.
Okay.
But yes, we are going to come on that part, but we are not covering oops this time. We are covering only pop.
Yeah, but it's just a question because sometimes students are guessing like, is it really object-oriented programming better than procedure programming? And it's like a tricky situation to say. Sometimes it is better, sometimes it's not, it depends.
Again, obviously, like in Python is capable to do almost everything, but it completely depends on what are your requirements. So if requirements ask for oops or object-oriented programming, then yes. If not, then pop would work. Okay. Then is anyone like have anyone tried this variable in Python by their own? Waiting for
Well, I did Google Colab, some examples you showed, and just trying to mix.
Okay. 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 Then I think we can move ahead then. So if else statement. So this is a condition statement, and like this is almost like you would really need to use it in your coding or like wherever, like mostly it is used in almost every scenario. But yes, depends if you want to use some kind of a loop or if else statement. So we are not going to do loop because it doesn't come in our that final practical task. But yes, if else is yes. So for the if else, if like it always checks for the conditions, like if condition satisfies, then it will move ahead. If no, then it won't. So this is just a flow chart. For example, there is some text expression, and if it satisfies that text expression, so which means it is true, so it will use if not, it will use else. There are some case scenarios as well where both of them will work together, and like not together means like if would work and other than else would work, and both would give whatever the output which was required based on the text expression. So this is just a flow chart, a very basic one. Like to make you understand like how does it decide. So if I state something, for example, if x is greater than, so I given two variables over here, x is equal to 4, y is equal to 8. If x is greater than y, which obviously being a human, like we can say that like by seeing it, but what if like it's very rare case scenario, or you did like this is some user input or something like that, then yes, it would work in that way. So if we can say like if x is greater than y, so it will come into this text expression. It will say, is it? No, it's not. Then it will say false. It will go to false. So body of else, it will come into the else one. And it will say print x is smaller than y. So it will give me the statement x is smaller than y. Do you understand this? Anybody have any questions on this if statement?
And what about switch statement in Python? Because if I understand correctly, not in all versions or not necessarily the switch is working in Python.
We don't use it.
Okay. It's just like strange because most of the languages have and Python doesn't have yet. Maybe it will.
But like frankly speaking, like I didn't found like the requirement of it, because Python have lots of stuff, like one to reach out to a single goal. For example, in the end, I need to print 8 in the output. Python have maybe 1,000 ways to do that. So yes, doesn't found any requirement to do that because use switch, because there are lots of different ways available in Python. How I can use that, or like how I can reach my goal. Anybody have any questions on if statement? Or if I'm going too fast, please ask me to go slow. Am I?
It shouldn't be too fast. They are used to my speaking when I'm talking quite fast.
Okay, then I'm good. Then this space is good, right? Okay, then moving ahead with basic maths operation. As you know, like Python is not only to print some normal string, it's also to do very complicated tasks, very like almost like calculator, or like whatever you can say, like it's almost a separate computer in it by itself, Python. So it can do lots of complicated tasks, but to start with very basics, yes, it can do very basic maths operation, where I can say like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So where I would say like if I store x is equal to 5, y is equal to 2, and I say do x plus y, it will do that. X minus y, multiplication is done mentioned by asterisk in this, and yes, division by slash. So if you want to try some basic math operation, then as we can see over here, we already did, but yes, we can say like, for example, a plus b, tell me what is a plus b, 5, tell me what is b minus a, it will do that. Tell me what is b minus 1, it will do that. Tell me what is b multiplied by a. Sorry. So it's capable of to do almost everything, whatever you want from Python. Not only this basic maths operation, but as I mentioned, like very complicated task. But this is just to make you understand like how and like what are the use cases of Python.
Also, just for curiosity, let's say if you need to divide something and just to get the integer value without the remaining. So do you often use casting, converting the type into integer, or just using 2/ signs? Because as you mentioned, Python is some kind of you can do the same thing in different ways. So
yes.
what you are usually using.
I usually convert it to integer first.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I found it easy, because like, if I want to convert it integer, so like what I'll do is like, I'll just type like integer, and then whatever measurement I want to give, like whatever the requirements or arguments I want to give, I can give directly. So you see it by defaults, this color is changed. So it means like it detects, okay, whatever I'm going to type in like ahead in this braces, parenthesis, it is going to be an integer. So I don't have to mention it every time, like, hey, this is integer, this is integer, this is integer. That's the answer, Simona. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now moving ahead with this procedure-oriented programming. So, which is very, very important part, I would say, and plus OOPS as well, object-oriented programming as well. Whereas, most of the company prefer OOPS over POP because of the class functions, class availabilities. But yes, as I mentioned, Python is like available, is capable to do or reach to goal or like your designated output in a very multiple ways. So procedure oriented programming is like one of the major stuff in it. So where we can say one of the problem with code is you are frequently doing the same thing repeatedly, the same few line of code, the same task, the same operation again and again and again. So what we are going to do is we are going to write one code only one time, and we are going to create some button for it. And we'll say like, whenever I press that button, so it should execute that code. Whatever I've written only one time, what I need to use multiple times, instead of using multiple times or writing that code, same length of code. For example, my length of code is like 100 lines. And it is going to be repeatedly used multiple times in my code. So what I need to do is I'll create this, I'll use this pop, I'll create that magic button, just like to give you some vision. So magic button, and as soon as I press it or call it, it will by default call that 100-line code, and like, you don't have to write it again. So that's why pop, we use pop. We'll see some examples as well. So for procedure-oriented programming, function for arguments. Okay, so for named arguments, what we can do is we define one button, that is this button, that is get message. So we are creating a button that is get message, and we are saying in the parentheses that it should be named. So whenever what message I want to print or what I need to do with that button, I'll say message is equal to hello and plus whatever the name, this name would be. So if you remember, I did over here, I said C is equal to A plus B. Or I would give you one more example, that print So you see, it prints me hello separately and world, what I mentioned separately, but it prints me together. But if I want a space over there, what I'll do, I'll copy same. I'll just give a space after this. And now if I print it, so you see, I get a space after that. So print function also do this, like adds it. But when using with this one, it's not predefined. I need to mention that name later. I wanted to mention, I don't want to hard code it. I want to give it like, I don't want to keep it dynamic. So I created this, I would say like I created this button. What I'll do is whenever I call this button, return message. So whenever you call this button, I want this thing to be happen. Then I define one more button, that is this print message. And what I'm doing is I want to, whenever I call this print message, I want message to be printed. This message to be printed. So what I'm doing, I'm nesting over here. I'm using First, I'm creating message, and then I'm creating one more button inside that message, and like I'm putting in message inside that button. So what will happen in the result? So whenever I call print message, what will happen? Message will be printed, but where will message come from? Message will come from here. Message is equal to hello plus name. Where is the name? Name come from here, where this is the second, so there is one button over that, there is a last button, that is print message. So now I start using the variable. I start calling it. Message one is equal to get message Yanis. So I called first button, that is Yanis, and it understood it should be hello plus name, that should be hello Yanis. Then after that, I do the second one, Maris, for example. Then I say print message hello world, print message hello world, and then so if I give the output, if I give the input already over here, hello world, so it will print only hello world, not you. It won't call the button. So when I say print message one, which means this one, so it will direct it to this button, get message, and then this Yanis, so it will print hello Yanis. Was it too complicated? Or
no, at all. Only one question: does Python supports method overloading?
I'm sorry.
Does Python support method overloading? I mean, with the same name but different arguments.
Same name but different.
Different arguments, name, argument, number.
So when you talk about name, so you're not mentioning variable, you're saying this name, for example, right?
No, and when I'm talking about defining method, you see the first line. What will happen if you will have the same name, but let's say with two arguments, name and surname.
Okay, so for example, I'll start with both of them. So if, for example, if I mention define get message and define get message again. So as you know,
yes.
interpreted, like it's Python is an interpreted language, which will do what? It will read code one line by line, and it will execute it at the same time. So this will be printed, this will be used, and the other one with the same button won't be used. So next won't be used, first will be used. Does it answer you?
I was thinking, so it does not support overloading. So if you call, let's say, print message, not print message, but get message, but with different arguments, not only name, but let's say imagine with name
yes,
and surname.
Yes, I understood your point. Yes. So you're saying, like, for example, one is definition get message name, and one is get message surname.
Name and surname, two arguments, and get message. Let's imagine you have two methods with the same name, get message, but one get message method needs only one argument, name, and another method will have two arguments, name, comma, surname.
Yes, I understood your point. Okay, I really understand. Okay, so this is get message name, and the other one will be get message surname. So what Python do is, like, Python is very capable to do mapping. So Python is good in mapping. So if I mention, for example, get message, this only Yanis, how would it be able to understand its name or its surname? You understand what I'm saying? So for example, whenever I want to call a button, so I need to mention that button, right? I cannot say get message, then name, and then Yanis. I cannot do that. That's not how it works. So if you want to give it like if you want to give for something for surname, you need to give another this calling button name. It needs to be separate. It needs to be different. Maybe with a capital letter or something, as you know, it's a case sensitive. But again, you cannot mention in this get message it's a name or a surname. If you want to call a button, you cannot mention that over here, like what variable or what input you are calling. So that's how it doesn't work in that way.
maybe I will add, like, what happens usually if you have multiple arguments. So you usually define the method which has the biggest number of arguments, because in Python you can skip like some, you can have some default value. As well as I see there is some example in the right side of the slide, like you can have those Neiman arguments, like you will be providing like initial equals to something. So it's by default not supporting the overloading, but it's possible to do the same what the overloading does.
Yes, you don't have to define another in a separate one, but you can do it in the same one.
So
Thank you.
at that point, Python is kind of JavaScript, which is also do not support overloading, method overloading.
What I would say is like every programming language is almost same to the same thing, but like there is like just a concept behind them. So every programming language is like, same, just different concept behind them. But yes, so it doesn't support overloading, but it can be like what meant to be done from the overloading. You can do it in the same, like, but in a different way. So you can achieve your goal, whatever you want. But tell me one thing, instead of writing, like, for example, name and then surname, why would you take extra effort and write and define a different function with like get message and then surname? Make sense?
Makes sense, yes.
Yes. Any more questions then? Okay, let's move ahead then. So that was named argument. Then this is positional argument. So in positional argument, whenever I define, like, for example, get sum of this argument, and I'll say the total is in it. So whenever I call this get sum, so it will do, what it will do is it will do total of integer, whatever is integer. So if you see, Simon, like you were asking, how can I define? Do I need to define integer every time? No. If you define it one time, you can use it repeatedly again and again. You don't have to define it again, like every time. So that's how I prefer changing it to integer first. Okay, moving ahead. So here is a one for loop. Don't have to worry about for loop, but it's pretty much simple. So straightforward as well. So for example, I'll say for n in arguments, n means number. It can be anything. For like, it's say like, for example, for x in arguments, total plus n is equal to, with this n, return this one, total. Then when I start giving the variable, I'll say I'll call get sum and whatever is inside the arguments. So it will do, it will directly give me the total. That is directly A0, whatever will be inside A0. Then when I say A3 is equal to get sum 2, 30, and 4, so what it will do, it will add all of them and give it me as the output. Again, same, A4 get sum. If I mention what are the numbers I want to add, so I don't have to add them every time over here. I created this button, and after that button, if I recall them, if I call that button, it will do whatever I want to do. So the main logic is to understand how we use how we do this. The same few lines of code, the same task, the same operation again and again, how we can overcome this. This is the main reason. So this is called functional positional argument. This is called positional arguments. We can merge both of them, position and name arguments. So what we can do is like we can define get sum arguments initial, that is we by default mention it is like it should be 10 and the maximum should be 50, not more than that. So what I'll do is I'll say total is equal to initial. So whenever I if it's not if it's below 10, then it will take initial. If it's above, then it will get the value and put it over there. But if it's going beyond 50 or maximum, then it will stop. Here is the code what I like, it's written over here what to do. whenever this get sum button is called. That is, for n in arguments, that can be anything, that x, I, a, b, c, d, whatever it is. I said total plus is equal to n of this n if this total is greater than maximum, then total should be maximum. It shouldn't be so. And starting is total should be initial, that is 10 maximum. Initially, that should be like 10. And if it's maximum 50, it should not go beyond 650, whatever the total is. If this condition is satisfied, if total is going to be greater than maximum, it will put maximum inside total. It means 50, and it will return total. Then when I do a is equal to get sum, so whatever, like if I don't mention anything, it will print 10, correct? 10. And then when I mention a1 is equal to get sum, initial is equal to 20, I can change over here. I want initial to be 20. So I change it only for this specific variable. I change my initial only for this specific variable. Then I think you can understand more better in the A3 and A4. So A3 get sum, I'll say 2, 30, and 4. So it will become like 34, 36. But I mentioned over here, I want this maximum should be 20. So obviously this calculation is going 36 and it's more than 20. So it will follow this one if, and it will put maximum into total. That is this maximum 20. So for this specific variable, the output will be 20. Then A4 get sum, I'll say again, call that button 10 plus 2 plus 13 plus 44. And I'll say maximum should be 100 and initial should be 20. Obviously it is more than 20. And let's try to calculate this. So 44, 54, 54 plus 2, 56, 56, 66, and 69, if I'm not wrong. So this becomes 69 and it says maximum should be 100 and initial should be 20. So 69 will be printed over there, correct? Do you have any questions on this? Or it was too fast? I'm sorry if it was.
No, it's not fast. Unclear.
I just have one small question, like in the left, you had return in the print message, but it's not returning anything. So it just for the convenience for the programmer to understand the function ends, or is it better to add return? Even
No,
if it's not return?
I won't say like it's completely different, again, requirement. So this was just to show, I took this specific example because I wanted to show like it's not mandatory you have to use only one pop or like define. You don't have to, you cannot, like you don't have to define single definition. You can define multiple in a single line of code. That was the main reason to use it. But again, talking about the use case, yes, if you are like using that print function again and again and again, that is the main requirement of pop. So yes, you use print message. Answer?
Yeah, but more my question was, is it necessary to add return? Because if in the print message, I wouldn't be adding return statements, it would be behaving the same.
So for this, so it obviously it's a strict topic, I would say. But yes, for this return, it's important in a scenario where like you have continuation of code. If you have continuation of code, at that point you need to use this return, where it will return the condition what was satisfied. So that's the main reason of using this return over here. So it was just an example. Like don't get okay. Okay, so moving ahead, time is 58. Okay, so Python have lots of modules. Lots of modules means a complete package. It have lots of modules which comes with a lots of package manager. Where for example, I would say like NumPy. So you can do lots of mathematical operations using NumPy. Then, for example, I would say like pandas. So if you want to deal with CSV file, automation with CSV file, so you need to use that panda module. So you define module in Python, and what you do is you start using it. So it is in that specific, if you want to use something specific from that specific module, you need to import it in your code. Then only you can use it. But coming to that point, I'll start with Boto 3 a bit to make you understand what is Boto 3. So our main motive of using the Python was like for this lecture was how we can use Python in our cloud. So what is Boto? Boto 3 is a module or a package manager for Python API. So what does it do is as an Amazon Web Service software development kit provides a Python API for AWS infrastructure service, which allows Python developers to write software that makes use of services like Amazon S3, Amazon EC2, and Amazon DynamoDB. So now a question arises over here: who all knows about cloud? Please, let's have this session interactive because it's very important. And this is meant to be the future. Cloud is meant to be the future, and it's going to be the best thing. I would say, it's completely changing the game. So who all knows about cloud? Have they ever heard it? Do they understand the concept of cloud?
If I remember correctly, they all had the course, but it was more theoretical, not practical one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm working with cloud, of course, not with Amazon, but Azure.
Okay, that's really good. Okay. Any more? Okay, so Yovita, you're working with Azure. So what kind of storage do you use? Do you know some name of the storage in Azure?
I'm working with Microsoft SharePoint, and mainly we're hosting add-ins in it. So we are using app.
Okay. But yes.
But mainly I'm scripting with TypeScript or using React.js. So I'm not diving deep into Azure, but yeah, of course, I know how it's structured.
Okay, that's good. So from among any of the students, anyone more knows about cloud or the technology or concept of cloud?
Sometimes we're using cloud, but we do not think it's a cloud. We just assuming, oh, okay, it's some kind of a web because we don't know what's inside. It's something similar like in this course, we have to integrate different systems. So potentially when they are using API or something like this, they are integrating the systems, but we just don't care what is it. Is it a cloud or just server?
Okay, understood. But can anyone give me a bit description of what is cloud exactly? Anyone? Or maybe just to clear your definition of cloud in a very simple language. You don't have to be very definitive.
They are hosted resources which we are using for specific price.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So my definition of cloud would be not definition. I would try to make you understand what is cloud. So whenever I want to, for example, I want to start a company. So I need to buy lots of servers, and servers are really very, very, very expensive. So it's really very expensive to buy server. First thing. Another thing is to place it in somewhere, and it requires a complete data center to store the servers, where maintenance and all this kind of stuff needs to be taken care of. Third thing, you need more number of resources, human resources, to manage them, to program them, to carry on them, to handle them, or to maintain them. So it requires a huge burden, lots of taken care of, and so this problem was very huge. Then after that, Amazon came into picture, and Amazon said, you want to use the servers, you just have your internet with you and a system, and rent those the requirements of server, whatever you want from us. So what we are doing is, Amazon have all the servers, whatever was meant to be in our place or like our on premises, Amazon is stored or keeping them in their resource, in their infrastructure, and they are providing the connection to it via internet. So that is basically cloud. And based on what we are using, how we're using, like how much we are using, we are paying for that, which means simply we are renting it from Amazon. So instead of creating a whole company or creating a, like buying a new building, buying lots of expensive servers, creating data centers, and then lots of this kind of stuff. Better than that, what we are doing, we are just renting it from Amazon. I'll give you a very big example. I would say, you know Netflix. When Netflix started, Netflix was using cloud, and they didn't even had a single office of them. They just used to like bunch of employees working from their home on their system, and doesn't have any office, no servers, nothing. They were using cloud services, and see at like what level they reached. Still, they are continuing with cloud. So that's a huge example of cloud. Anyone have any question or like doubt on cloud now? Like I just wanted to make you understand this cloud thing.
My question would be just when you are writing some Python code dedicated for cloud, I don't know, service or something like this, are you testing it locally on your computer or is it directly in the cloud tested?
Whenever like, okay. So
I imagine you have some kind of a Git or similar repository to
yes,
push the updates and so on, but is it like, are you at least running in your computer or is it always remote?
every project needs to be gone through development. So whenever it is in development, obviously it meant to be keep on testing again and again and again until it is ready to go in production. So yes, we test them first on our end. And obviously, if we want to test it, we test it on Amazon, like by using Amazon. And how we do that? By using this Boto 3. Because this is the module what interacts Python with Amazon. Okay. So Python plus this module called Boto 3 will allow us to have access to Amazon S3 or Amazon services, I would say, as of now. Don't want to get into that much deep, but yes. So we'll try to have some practical tasks, and I'll create this task flow, which may help you to understand what's happening exactly or what will going to happen exactly. So what I'm doing is I'll write a Python code and I'll push or I'll put or push whatever I can do from the Git repository directly on this Lambda. So this is Lambda, first thing. This is Lambda. This is based on function. So you create a function, you say, I want to create an event. You create an event, and whenever this event happens, you can trigger anything or any services on AWS. That's where Lambda comes into picture. Lambda is used for. So you simply create an event, and for example, event, I would say, okay, so you have memory space of 200 GB. You say, whenever my memory space becomes 150, goes above 150 GB, that's an event. So whenever it goes above 150, I want trigger to be happen. Trigger can be like add more memory. This can be a trigger. So Lambda is used for that. So that is Lambda. So what I can do is I write my Python code, I push it into Lambda, and I create an event over here. I say, I want to check in Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is a storage service where S3 means like the solid, it will like store this data in an object way, I would say. So it's object-based storage. What it will do, so Lambda will, whenever I create an event over here, I'll check in Amazon S3 the name of the file is available or not. if that file is available. Until if it's not available, Lambda won't do anything. But when the file is available, Lambda will create a trigger, and this is the service called Amazon SMS, which is like simple notification service. So what it will do is it will create an SMS, or it is capable to do lots of stuff like email, message, personal message, lots of stuff, broadcasting, everything. So like you just need to configure it however you want. So what it will do, Lambda will trigger SMS, and SMS will send an email to me like, this is your like you have this file available over here, or whatever message I want to print it. So this is a flow. I'll write the Python code and push it into Lambda. Then from Lambda will keep on tracking Amazon S3. Is the file is available or not? If the file is available, it will send a trigger to the Amazon SNS, and SNS will notify me via email. This is our practical task for today. Okay. So here you can see I have wrote that code where I'm using pop, I'm using if else, I'm using variable. So these are the stuff what I'm doing over here. I'll break down the code and help you to understand. So if you remember, I told you like whenever I want to use some module of Python, I want to import into the code. So what I'll do, I'll type import simply and the module name. So I'll import this Boto3 over there. Then I'll use this pop. I'll create this Lambda handler. I'll create this pop button. What I'll say, event and context. So for Yovita specifically, you ask like name and surname, event and context. Yes, you can use it that way. Okay, moving ahead. So I said I created a variable named S3 under resource. It's like Python doesn't know about. Python will use it normally as a variable, not specifically S3 or not Amazon, specifically for Amazon. It will choose understand it only as a normal variable. Then I'll say Boto3. I'll start see whenever I want to use some module. So I'll use that and dot, and then inside that module, whatever the functions are available. So Boto3 dot resource. So I'll say inside S3 underscore resource, store Boto3 dot resource, that is S3. But Boto3 do understand what is S3. So inside S3 resource, what happened? Resource of S3 is stored. Then I create a new variable called my bucket, and I'll say again, now this S3 underscore resource knows what is S3. Then I'll use this S3 underscore resource as S3 underscore resource dot. Again, what is inside this, the function of bucket, I can use it by using this simply dot. So I'll say in this variable S3 underscore resource dot bucket, what is the bucket name? Like the bucket name. Then I'll say key, what I want. So as you know, what was our motive was to check the file is available inside Amazon S3 or not. So I'll mention the first thing S3, then I'll mention the bucket name inside S3, whatever inside S3, the bucket name. So when I say bucket name, so bucket means, if I say it in a very simple language, it's a directory. It's a simple directory or a folder in more simple way. It's a folder. Whenever I say a bucket, it's a folder. Inside a folder, you have lots of files. But inside a folder, you can have multiple folders as well. And inside that folder, you can have files. So whenever I say like bucket, so it's a folder. But in Amazon language, it's called bucket name, bucket. Then I mention key. So this key is simply a variable, and I'll say object want to filter. So what I'll do, I'll ask Amazon S3, I'll check in Amazon S3 by using Lambda if is this name of the key, is this file is available or not. So this is just an exemplary code. I'll show you the real code as well with the values as well. So I'll say key and the value of the file or the file name or whatever it is. So Lambda will check in Amazon S3 this file is available or not. Objects. So again, I'll create one more variable. Oh, sorry, I forgot this one. Okay. SNS. So again, I'll create another variable that is SNS client. So now I'm configuring this SNS. I'll say boto3.client use SNS. So this SNS is built inside SNS underscore client. Then I'll create a new variable and I'll say list down my bucket. So this my bucket dot objects. Object means files. Bucket means folder. Objects dot filter, and the filter should be key. This key means whatever the file I want to store, whatever the file I'm looking for or filter I want to filter. This would become a more simpler. Just give it a try. It would become more simpler when I'll show you the exact code. So objects, this one. So I'll create an if else statement. What I'll say is if in objects print the file is present. So if this is happening, if objects is happening means if this filter, so what I'm storing, if there is nothing in the objects, which means it will go into else. If something is storing in the objects, what it will do, it will go into this one, this line print. So it will print the file is present, going to send notification, and then it will say SNS. What I will do now my file is present. Now I want that trigger to happen. It is checked. Now file is present. It will send the trigger to SNS. And what SNS will do? SNS will send a mail to me. So I'll say SNS underscore client. I'll use this variable dot publish. So topic ARN. So this ARN means Amazon resource name. You don't have to like worry about it. It's completely cloud thing where every resource in Amazon have its very unique name, and it's unique over the account, all over the account. So like if you create 1,000 resources, like you create one machine, two machine, 1,000 machines, every machine would have a different ARN. So it's just to identify or to filter out it in a unique way or some unique name to a specific resource. Then I'm using this topic ARN. I'll put the original ARN and then I'll say message. The message is message. So whatever message I want to display, I would say the body of mail. This is the body of mail. So I'll say message wants to display, and then subject, the mail, subject of the mail. If this condition is not satisfied, it will go into else and they say the file is not present. Now, just to clear it a bit more easily, I'd like to show you. Okay. I'll first go to Lambda. So this is AWS and this is how it looks, the main console or home of console. Your would be completely empty because I have recently used this. That's why it's keep on showing me. You can see what are the costs, what is the health, like you can see what region does it belong to. These are the regions, like it is in US East, North Virginia, Ohio, California, Oregon. So I'm using Frankfurt, which is the nearest one to me, because if I use this, I'll get less lagging of the data. Plus, if I use the nearest data center, it is cheaper as well. So these are the all data centers available from your Amazon side. This is my account. Then, okay, moving ahead with Lambda. So as I mentioned, this Lambda, this one. So this is this Lambda, this service, and I created an event over here. I created a function over here. In this function, I've mentioned this code. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so reference to the code, I'll say import Boto3 again. Then after that, I'm using this lambda handler and then creating this button and S3 resource. Then I'll say Boto3 resource, then my bucket. Okay, here. So when I say my bucket, I said folder. Bucket name means folder. So I'll open it as separately, so you don't have to worry about it. So I'll open S3, the storage solution. Inside here, you see buckets. One bucket is available. That is this bucket name. That is how to use Python in Cloud Bucket. I already created this because I don't want to waste time. It's already 7:19. So what I'll do is, this is my bucket name. Inside this bucket, these are the 4 files available. That is trello.pptx, test2.txt, txt, test1.txt, and like this. So these are the files available. So what I'll do is, my bucket s3 underscore resource.bucket, and I'll say the bucket name. And then after that, I'll say key, what I want to filter. I want to filter trello.pptx. I want to filter this file. It's normal, it's nothing, just temporary, like a normal PPT Power presentation. So then after that, I would say, like I'm saying, like SNS client Boto3 SNS, I configured SNS. Then in objects, I'm saying check the list inside my bucket. That is, so inside my bucket, what is inside my bucket? This is inside my bucket. That is how to use Python in Cloud Bucket. So inside this bucket, check objects. Object means check files. So as I mentioned, bucket means folder, objects mean files. So I'm saying inside this folder, and then inside among the files, filter out prefix that is key, and the key is trello.pptx. So I'll say inside and store it in the objects. So filter out trello.pptx and store it inside objects. If objects, which means if objects is not empty, print this and do this. If not, do this. So after that, as you see, it's trello.pptx is available over here. What will happen? I'll say sns.client, okay, published topic ARN. So I'll show you ARN as SNS as well. So in over here in SNS, if you can see, there is one topic, and inside that topic, I have created this send SNS. I have used this send SNS, and I'll show you how it works. So inside this SNS, you see this ARN. I've copied this same ARN over here. So what is inside this SNS? So it says, I have configured 2 endpoints. That is, one is my this Accenture mail ID and one is my personal email ID. And what I did is, I have configured this, like whenever this topic is being raised or whenever this topic is being triggered, what needs to be done? Needs to send mail to these 2 endpoints I've configured. Let me show you the PPT again. So by using Python, I'm creating event like check file is available in Amazon S3 or not. Until it is not available, it keeps on triggering it. It keeps on checking it. Once the file is available, it will create a trigger and it will ping it to SNS. So once this SNS is been triggered, how it triggers to SNS? By using the ARN, which has been provided by here and which has been copied from here, this ARN. Then after this ARN, I'll say, hey, the file is present. This is the message, or I would say the body of the mail. And then I chose subject, that is S3 data check. Then after that, simply else print the file is not present. But as the file is present, what I'll do is I'll simply click on test. So if you see over here, there is nothing, only a single tab. Once I click on test, it will create another tab, that is execution result. And it says function log start request ID. So this is the request ID. Amazon tracks everything, and you will have bunches of ID for every executed thing what you do. So this is the ID. Then the file, it says the file is present, going to send notification. Why? It says because we have sent it. We have set to print it. The file is present, going to send notification. Once we do that, it says how much time does it take to send to trigger it. How much time it is going to bill us. What is the memory size? What is the used location or storage or something. So once that is done, just now I got a mail and I'll show you. So you see 7:24, just now I got a mail. It says the subject is S3 data check, which I have mentioned over here. That is S3 data check. That was the subject. And I said the body of the mail is here, the file is present. If you wish to stop receiving, this is like unsubscribe. Okay, this is not the part, but yes, our message is done and our S3 data check subject is there, which means this file is present in objects. This is very, 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 very simple thing. A lot of complicated stuff can be done with this. Do anybody have any questions on this?
Yeah, so this is how you write the code and execute it, and how you define the trigger, when it should be executed. Like you mentioned, if the storage will be more than, I don't know, 20 gigabytes, you should be calling this one.
So this lambda function is here. Okay, so you're asking when it should be called. Okay, so this is just to test over here. I can configure test event, and then after that I can, like, if you see, I have one as well. So you can set when it needs to be triggered. You can define
about the triggers
based on timing, based on parameters, right?
Yeah, so the question was like, can it be based on timing, like every hour or on some kind of event?
It can be scheduled, which means based on timing, every hour, every minute, every second, continue, or like every second day, every third day, like it can be configured in each and every possible way.
Okay, thanks.
Like I have been working with this cloud for more than 3 years, I guess, but I haven't found any parameter what I was not able to do it in Lambda. Okay, questions, please.
Yes, and how about authentication? So you are calling and no checking. Do you have a right just to check that folder?
So how we do that? For doing that, what you need to do is inside my SNS, you need to configure it like mi Mohammed.u.khan or like my email ID. So am I allowed to do or like to receive this notification first thing? Once that is done, I'll get a confirmation mail. So it needs to be confirmed by both the end. Like, yes, I agree, I want to receive. Yes, I agree, I want to send. Once that is done, if you see email protocol, then this connection or trigger, or I would say this mail has been sent. And remember one thing, over here, I'm not asking or allowing to have access or like me as like these two email ID to have access to the file or bucket or the file. Like I'm not allowing the access. I'm just notifying like yes. So if you see, it doesn't allow me to reach anywhere from here, anywhere to like those specific S3 bucket. It doesn't allow me to reach there. It only notifies me. So SNS is just a simple notification service, which allow me to notify on a very best case scenarios or possible scenarios. So this is used like, for example, I am deploying something and that deployment takes 23, 24 hours, 25 hours. Sometimes it can be sooner as well, depending on the speed. So what happens? What I'll do is, like, I'll set a trigger, I'll send a notification, I'll set a trigger and I'll set SNS and I'll ask whenever, and I'll keep on Lambda tracking it. Like, is the code has been deployed or not? Is the simulation is done or not? So it will keep on tracking it. Once that simulation is done, it will notify me that is done. And then I don't have to keep on monitoring or like, is it going to happen? Like how it is happening, or like, I don't have to continue monitor it. So yes, we are not allowing access to it. We are just notifying. But as I mentioned, this is very, very basic, very simple example, because already it's 1.5 hours and we don't have that much like time. So that's the main reason I chose this very basic thing. Or it would be too complicated, specifically for those who are like very new to this technologies.
And one more question. This Lambda function could be triggered by HTTP request?
Yes, it can be.
So it's kind of repository of functions, this Lambda.
You see, like you have a complete list of triggers. What do you? Okay. Okay, then moving ahead with our slides. So, like even when I was studying, I have done my telecommunications from RTU. If you know RTU, Riga Technical University. So I was like a bit struggled with like what path should I need to choose, or like what would be the best way to like for my career, or like where I can grow, like keep myself growing and like, you know, do lots of stuffs, or grow myself and learn every possible technology I can, because I'm very like I am obsessed with learning building skills. So that's the main reason I chose this Accenture, and the same path what I'm showing you, I chose the same path, and based on that only I'm here. So we belong to the guild that is Industrial Cloud and Platforms, where we completely work with cloud, and where we have, for example, I would say like it is all about how experience with connected products and workforce beats features and business models. Cloud computing is a firmly established and the new normal. This requires new models of data transport and edge computing nodes, as well as integrations. Legacy tools and system and are slowing the pace of innovation. So companies are looking for digital transformation to build the foundation for next level service. Modern product engineering methods, that is software and hardware both, need to be industrialized with maximum efficiency. So the same example when I started with like cloud, what is cloud? Like everybody is going to get digitized. Nobody wants like bunches of a piece of hardware like sitting in their place and like using resources, money and place and time, stress, lots of stuffs. You don't have to worry about anything. Cloud deals with everything. That's the main reason cloud is so going to be the future, and it is booming very fast. So industrial cloud and platforms, where you have this PLM, IoT embedded. So inside this guild, we have product lifecycle management, industrial, Internet of Things, embedded. But for this IoT, we have IIoT as well, industrial Internet of Things. So IoT have Azure IoT, AWS IoT, Google IoT, Siemens IoT. In PLM, we have Dassault, Siemens, PTC, cloud infrastructure. In embedded, we work with C, C++, Python, RTOS, RPI, ROS, AWS SDK, Azure SDK, lots of stuff. Plus, we provide certification as well. So I got certified after coming into Accenture with AWS as well and Azure as well. I got certified with AWS Associate and Azure as well. So we have more than 10 years of experience with embedded development experience and 6 years of experience with deep cloud and network experience, strong architecture development and operation skills. We are powered by the latest technology, that is big data analytics, artificial intelligence, IoT, that is edge computing, Wi-Fi, 5G connection, cloud platforms, data connections, cloud technology, augmented reality and wearable. So we are currently working on all of them together. Like Accenture is as I told you, Accenture is multi-trillion company and it likes work on a global level. Almost you can find it in every country. I guess if I remember it properly, then it's like 157 countries, if I remember it properly. So if you want to choose this path, so what would be the best way to do it, as how I did it was through bootcamp, that is Accenture bootcamp. So that is cloud and automation. And it says like it starts like, so this was the last time it happened. That was 14th of February till 11th of March. So I would say just now we completed it. Next time when it is going to come, you can get notified or like you can reach out to Accenture and like get information about when the bootcamp is going to happen or something, because dates are not specified yet. But yes, so in this, how you can see it, that is like www.bootcamp.lv. So this bootcamp.lv you can find, and under that is cloud and automation. Inside cloud automation, you can find what are the dates going to be. So you can click on it, you can learn, and like you can try to get into the bootcamp. You need to give that those tests and all. I'll show you the roadmap of it as well. So this is like cloud integration. For cloud integration, we have 1st of August and 12th of till 12th of August. So this would be our next bootcamp for the dates. I'm not sure this is specified dates, but yes, if it's the PPT, then yes, surely it would be. Again, you can see it in www.bootcamp.lv. Maybe this date would change, but this is surely going to happen. Then after that, I would say this is the process or roadmap of bootcamp. You go into www.bootcamp.lv, you apply in it, you just like prepare based on some pre-reading materials. There would be some test evaluation. So you need to do some test evaluation, technical test, English test, and like all these kind of tests. Then based on those tests, you get qualified and then you get into bootcamp. Bootcamp is for like till 14 days to 1 month maximum. And then in that bootcamp, we will teach you every day, every single topic. So, and those will be Accenture employees. We will teach you networking, we'll teach you AWS Cloud Basics, AWS Cloud Advanced, we'll teach you Python, we'll teach you container technologies, we'll teach you Linux, we'll teach you lots of skills. You will learn those different skills in those 14 to 1 month, depending on what bootcamp you're choosing, which should be like cloud and automation mostly. And then after that bootcamp, if you get selected, then you get internship. And then internship, it's paid, that is like 480 euros if it's 100% workload, and it's 360 euros if it's 75% workload. Then based on your evaluation of your internship, you get permanent employment. For this test evaluation, there would be 2 parts. One would be English and technical. Another would be social and analytical. But most of it depends on which bootcamp. So for cloud and automation, it will be English and technical only, no social and analytical skills. And I have seen lots of people in Accenture who was like completely from different background, who was not even like, for example, some came from journalism, some came from sociology or something, some came from psychology. So this, I would say, are just examples, just like temporary, I would say examples, like he was musician, she was like nurse, he was lawyer, he was Japanese culture specialist, become programmer. So that's how it's like, it's not mandatory, like it needs to become specific from a specific term, or I would say specific field. You learn a lot based on bootcamp. We'll teach you. So yes, that's our motive. Let there be change. Please, we can have this session if you want. Any questions, please let me know.
I'm just wondering, in your company, how you handle or manage task assignments to developers? Do you use some specific methods or practices?
Okay. So how it works? First thing, Accenture, as you might already know it, Accenture is like completely working on client. So it's a consulting company, first thing, which works on project based. So depends on clients. What is the client requirement? So client comes with requirement like, I want an employee, I want to rent an employee for this specific time, where we want this, and this skills, the list of skills. So in our specific guild, we look after people who have specific skills, knowledge. Then based on them, we do the assessment, and then we hire on the project. But the very good thing of Accenture is, it's as it is based on project, every time requirement change, and every time you get to learn something new. Every time you get to learn or do your hands-on experience, practical experience on real life based scenarios things. So that's a very, like, the very important thing, or like the most useful thing I would say in Accenture. Like,
So if I understand correctly, it's not necessary, like if you came to work in, I don't know, IoT area, you can move to another position. It's not necessary hard coded.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
But then a different company hired you. But how specifically is the task assigned to developer? Okay, let's say you need to create some control. Who provides that task to the developer?
Project manager, team lead.
Okay. And are you doing some requirement engineering, modeling? How is the process is going? Are you using DevOps practices?
Yes, 100%.
It's like always students are guessing, is it really necessary to know UML, like how to design the system on diagrams, not just program it? So
That is really, Simona, like I would really say, like that's very important. Like, to have a clear concept and overview picture. First you have that overview picture, and then only after you would be able to achieve something or write any code or whatever. But yes, over big picture is important.
any other questions from students?
No more from me.
So
Was this helpful?
for me, yes. Is the second part about the cloud computing, especially.
Okay.
So if no one has a question, so thank you very much. And because you allowed it, so I will share the video with other students, which I actually will have some internships this spring or summer. So probably it will be useful to hear as well.
Clear that. Should be. Okay, then thank you. Thank you a
Thank
lot,
you.
everyone.
Yeah. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.